Hello and a warm welcome to Speak Your Mind on the afternoon kickoff. That's right, with me, Louise. Lovely to have your company. And our episode this week, well, we've got today International Day of the Girl Child, where we stand with the global community to support girls' progress everywhere. Let girls be girls. But as you know, that this talkback show, it's live on radio, and we have the delayed coverage on FBC TV every Wednesday mornings as well as Tuesday nights. But as I was saying, International Day of the Girl Child, the United Nations 4 years ago set aside this day to promote girls' rights, highlighting gender inequalities and addressing discrimination and abuse suffered by girls around the world. So our guest in the studio today is the coordinator of the Fiji Women's Rights. Right, and yes, Shamima Ali, who is the best person to talk to in regards to the reality of what is being faced by our girls in the country. Lovely to have you back again, Shamima.
Great to be here.
Wonderful. Anyway, we'll talk about this very important day of the girl child, and just Shamima, from you of this day, what do you think?
Well, I think it's wonderful to have a day for the girl child because she is so important. In fact, these are the people who are going to grow up to be women of tomorrow, and so we're talking about half the population. Mm-hmm. So, but I think a lot of times we talk about the girl child, promoting girls and so on, but they're often empty words. Okay. We really are not paying much attention to them. We talk about them. A lot of things have been achieved throughout, like more girls are in school now and so on. But, it's incremental, it's quite minimal what we have achieved for girls because there's so many things happening. So in Fiji, we have got 145,000 girls, according to the Bureau of Stats, give or take 100 this way or that way. So, that's about like just over 1/10 of our population.
Yes.
So, the girls, and these are below 18.
Right.
That's a child, the girl child, if we're talking about here.
Yes.
So there is still, we believe there is a lot of work that needs to be done with girls if only people would take stock. We really don't have enough data about the girl child, how many are dropping out, how many are in school, and so on. And those things need to be readily available.
Yes.
And particularly in terms of strategizing as to how can we increase girls' development, how can we get them more involved, be more inclusive of them, and how can we address their problems?
Yes, that's right, Shamima. Girls today, for instance, you've just given us the statistics of their population here, and, they're brimming with talent and creativity, but their dreams and potential are often let down by discrimination, violence, and lack of equal opportunities. Well, I'm talking about the world around as well as here. So, Shamima, what are the challenges faced by our girls here?
Well, the very first one is, the boy preference that we have in families.
Yes, that's common.
Yes. I do a lot of workshops, my staff and we do a lot of workshops throughout Fiji, and we do talk about gender issues. And whenever we say in a room full of people, whether it's men, women, or mixed, and we'll say, what is the preference? What would people like to have as a first child, and they'll all say, of course, a boy, so they'll say that. Some of them nowadays are quite shamefaced when they say that. And there's a minority that does say, we really don't care. But the majority of people do want the firstborn to be a boy, and then we continue. And sometimes in families when we don't have boys, a woman often has to undergo many pregnancies till she produces a boy,
Right.
So that's called boy preference, and that is still very prevalent throughout the world. Fiji is no exception, throughout the Pacific also. So we are discriminating against the girl.
Yes.
Already we're doing that. In some countries overseas, they have sex determination, and then if it's a girl, they abort girls. So much in the South Asia and other places also. So they don't even have a chance to be born. But thankfully in Fiji, we haven't heard of any, but we do hear. When we go out in the rural areas, we will hear, we know about that family there in remote areas where this woman was pregnant, and then we heard she had a child. It was a girl child, and the mother-in-law put her through put her in the toilet pit and things like that. So you hear there's anecdotal, evidence around where people talk about, but really don't tell us enough. The only thing we can do then is let the police know, look, we heard this and you better go and investigate out there. But we don't hear too much of that, and hopefully that doesn't happen. But that doesn't mean that we don't discriminate. From the beginning, we tell girls how they should behave, like we restrict their movements, where they can go, where they can't go, who they can socialize with, teach them how to cook. Your place is in the kitchen. A girl is too smart, and we say, "Hey, you're going to end up in the kitchen. Go and learn to cook." You see?
Yeah, that's sad, man. Because I believe that there was an experience that I spoke to someone where, she was really educated well, but then when she got married, she was asked to stay home, but she was married to somebody rich, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So these kinds of things, yeah?
So their own development is stunted, you see? And when we tell them this is what you're going to end up doing, and there's a knight in shining armor out there, you have to get married, so we have to prepare you for marriage. From very young age, girls are told that. But we also, what we do is we erode their self-esteem and self-confidence. When girls talk too much, how they should smile. Don't show all your teeth when you're smiling. Don't laugh too loudly, you smile like that. How you sit, how you stand, where you go. So for many girls, this is the reality, depending on how traditional the community she comes from,
right?
How isolated it is, and how traditional and conservative the family is. We don't seem to have moved on. And yet we ignore a lot of her wishes, what she would like to do.
Man.
She doesn't have those. A lot of freedoms are curtailed, and she watches her brothers, her male cousins, enjoying the world. They can go out, they can play sports, they can do all those things. Girls, when they're very good at sports, at a certain age, when they're reaching puberty, they start having breasts and so on. We start restricting their dress. Oh no, they can't play sports because they have to wear short dresses. Their bottoms will be showing and so on. So all those restrictions come in. You're getting to be a woman. No need to go out. No need to do this. Stop participating in this, that, and the other. And what happens is these things, we call this the genderizing process.
Okay.
So it starts from our homes, and of course it comes from our culture, from our tradition,
right.
From some religious beliefs, and so on. So all these things shapes how we treat girls and how we treat boys, and parents continue that. Then they go out into the big bad world out there. They go to school.
Right.
Our schools are very segregated, how boys and girls are treated in our schools.
All right. Shamima, sorry to cut you off. We've just run out of time. We'll get back to that about schools on Speak Your Mind. This is your only classic hits radio station in Fiji, Gold FM. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. And our friend in the studio, Shamima, before the break, we were talking about how girls, even at schools, are segregated. So you may give an example of that, Shamima.
Yeah. And what they're taught in the home carries on into the schools. And how girls and boys are treated. For a long time, the boy preference again in schools. The boys were more paid attention to. And I remember as a school teacher how boys would come to me and say to me, I really want to do home economics. I want to be in the secretarial class and so on. But they're telling me I can't because I'm a boy. And the girls would say, I want to do tech drawing. I want to do woodwork. But the teachers are telling me I can't do that because that's boys' area. So that I was surprised to learn recently that still occurs. And boys being more pushed into science subjects because that's brainier, and the girls will go into the art subject because that's easy to do, for a long time. And that is why, it's not because girls don't have the ability, the best surgeons, the engineers, the pilots for a long time were men. Now we're seeing more girls going in because their parents are changing their minds. They are becoming more progressive and they're listening to them, or they're getting scholarships to do these things. Government policies are pushing them into that, allowing them, allow them to make that choice and things like that.
Right.
So these are the reasons girls don't play sports and so on, and also girls' sports going on from the schools. It's also how they are told to dress. I was very shocked last week to hear from some tertiary students, who are doing medicine, that they're doing clinical work with their hair in a ponytail, a nice white shirt, and just above the knee skirt, like a black skirt and ballet shoes, fletchies and all that. And then instead of looking at what they're doing, the teacher is telling them, and unfortunately a female lecturer is telling them, your hair should be in a bun and the skirts below the knees and the number of slits a skirt should have and all that, So the students, one of the students turned around and said, but what about my work? I want some feedback on that. So, restricting girls and then putting up notices like the best things are the hidden things. The deeper the gold is, where the oyster is found. So telling girls to cover up, and this is in our tertiary institutions. We're still doing this to girls. We're telling them, and basically that leads on to things like, if you dress up well, you hide yourself, you will not get raped. You're a good girl if you do this. The good girl and the bad girl. The bad girls are the ones who talk back and ask questions, and things like that.
So you're expected to listen all the time.
Yes, listen all the time and dress what is called decently,
Okay.
and that it means cover up. But what we forget is covering up or not, women and girls still get raped, still get sexually assaulted.
Absolutely.
And we totally forget that. So when you restrict girls in that manner, they're thinking, what are we? That whole self-esteem, self-confidence goes of them. We also, as we do with all our children, we teach them good values. What happens is we teach them moralistic things, how to be a saint kind of thing, but we don't understand what they are going through at different stages of development, what they're
Right.
exposed to and things like that. So we have to teach them good values, how to look after themselves, how to respect themselves. And to do that, we have to respect them, whether they're male or female, gay or lesbian or whatever. We have to respect them as human beings.
That's exactly right, Shamima. Thank you for that. Now, what kinds of abuse committed against our girls are recorded in the national survey? I believe that was done. What was this national survey about, or who was it done by?
The national survey called Somebody's Life, Everybody's Business, and that was done by the Crisis Center in partnership with the Fiji Bureau of Statistics.
Okay.
That was the results were released in 2013.
Oh.
And when we surveyed, and over 3,000 women were surveyed throughout Fiji, we went to all the divisions in Fiji. And what we found was that for women a lot of women who were in domestic violence situation, and we find that with our statistics at the Crisis Center also, a lot of them often have been abused as young girls. They come from that background of abuse. One of the, so one of the risk factors for domestic violence is if you have been abused before.
Okay.
And the survey also found that about 16% of the women who were surveyed had had a forced sexual encounter before the age of 15. So it's 15 below, either raped or coercive sex, but a forced encounter sexually. And often by people who are in positions of trust in their own homes and relatives and friends of the family and so on. And statistics throughout Fiji show that girls who are abused, and amongst them some boys also, but mostly it's girls who have been abused. About almost 80% are abused by people they know, people in positions of trust. And of that, 50% are relatives. And the relatives include fathers, grandfathers, stepfathers, brothers, half-brothers, uncles, all these people, who have raped girls. And the girls can be, the youngest child that was molested that we know of, the police have a record of, was 8 months old, female child. So, so you've got 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, 1 year. We've got little girls coming to us 2 years old, 3 years old, for this kind of, over the years we have seen. Then you have 14, 15, 13, 16 girls who have been abused. What is good, and when girls are abused, it has a huge impact on their lives.
Yes.
They also, and if it's not reported, which happens in families,
Yeah.
we keep it all quiet. We save the family honor, so
Yeah.
to speak, and harm the child to whom it is happening. She sometimes becomes the target of other male members when they get to hear that this person has been abused, sexually abused, but nothing was done about it. So other men start targeting her. And we've had actually at least one case I remember very well with this girl by the age of 16. I opened the papers one day and I saw her obituary that she had burnt herself to death. She had a history of abuse from the age of 9 years old. So we have other cases. We have girls who are suicidal, who come into us self-destructive. They do a lot of self-harm. They're calling attention to themselves and so on. And that is good because of the work that we have done. And now more and more people are talking about this.
Yes.
That women are coming out, girls are coming out and reporting. So we're seeing high numbers of report, which was not the case when we started 30 years ago.
Right. I mean, that is so right, Shamima, because it shows that the awareness work that you're doing is actually going somewhere. But yeah, we'll be back soon on Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hit. Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits, and we continue with our live radio talkback, the delayed coverage shown on FBC TV every Tuesday nights as well as Wednesday mornings. And like we've been saying, today is International Day of the Girl Child. And just speaking to Shamima Ali, I mean, I know that Fiji obviously, still has a long way to go. We've been talking about abuse and how girls are facing these abuse through their own relatives. I mean, this is a strong message. I mean, how are parents to keep an eye on their girl? It seems that you can't trust anyone these days, can we? I mean,
Yes.
family.
Yeah. But there are a lot of very nice men out there, good men,
Of course.
who will never think of doing that. But because of those who do, men get tainted with the same brush, But
Yes.
there, so excuse me. So I would also say for men who would never dream of doing these things, to be a good influence on other men.
That's exactly right.
When young girls go past, whistling at them, looking them up and down, and older men and so on. Sometimes within families, and I've seen it actually at institutions, our institutions, professional institutions, where there are young girls working, young men and older women. And I've seen the older men, because they are in positions of power, they often use the cultural relationships, Veita Valeni, Veita Uvu, and all those things, and use that. There is a certain limit to the jokes one can do.
Right.
But sometimes I feel very yucky when I see very young girls, and these men in their 50s, and these girls might be 18, 19,
Right.
and doing really sexual jokes with them. That really an older person
Really?
should not be doing that, that kind of thing. So, and the girls, because of this whole thing about keeping quiet, don't answer back, and then if that person not only is an older person but is also in a position of power over you, they often just giggle and
Laugh
walk
it off.
away and laugh it off and don't do things. And I've also noticed in some institutions where the young women have come out and reported, they have been discouraged by older women and men not to do that, not to go out. We will sort it out inside, and it doesn't get sorted out, So those kind of things also we have to look out for. Even when we have these cultural relationships, we should have our limits of how we talk to young girls and things like that. So, so all these things go together. And if things go wrong, if something happens to a girl, then we often blame her or her mother, even
Yes.
if the father has raped her. They say, where was the mother? As a mother, my child would be trusted with my husband, her father, her biological father.
Yes.
Often women are a bit skeptical about stepfathers,
Yeah.
but not of their own. He's the most trusted person I would leave my child with, my
Biological
husband,
father, yeah.
father, yeah. And my father,
Yes.
the girl's grandfather, my son, my brother, these are the people I would trust them will, and traditionally, these are the people who would protect our girls.
Yes.
They're supposed to be protecting our girls.
Right.
But sometimes these are the very people who are abusing our girls. And the girls don't talk. Or if they do tell, they say something or make noises about it, they're told to shut up and don't bring shame to the family. And sometimes they are beaten up.
So they're
Yeah.
willing to sacrifice that
The
whole
girl.
girl's life and
yeah.
all her future
Yes.
just for that.
Yeah. And when this thing happens, she becomes a target of other people. And if she gets pregnant within that,
Oh, dear.
then she loses out on her education. Then she's also not treated very well within the family. A lot of pressure is put on her and things like that. So all these things, many, many girls. There are some girls, and then many, many girls go through.
Yes.
What is good to see now is, there we have got some schools where things are changing, and particularly all girls schools and so on. And we have got some schools which are quite progressive and which are encourages of girls education and so on, and treating boys and girls alike, telling the girls go out and get that, and some parents. But unfortunately, this is a small percentage. The other thing we also forget are the girls who might come from privileged backgrounds. And we think because they come from this background, they have rich parents or, and so on, they're from the upper socioeconomic bracket and so on, that they are okay. They are not okay. There is a lot of neglect. A lot of them are quite spoiled. The parents sometimes are too busy with their own social activities. So give the kids whatever they want.
Okay.
And whatever what they want, they have a lot of money. We have a lot of young kids who are taking drugs, and sometimes hard drugs, and people are telling me, people in positions of power are telling me that they know that their kids say that people are passing them drugs and things like that. So there's some kids who know never to touch it, but there are other kids who are very vulnerable and who get into these kind of things. So a whole lot of things are happening with our young people, and I believe that we are sometimes totally unaware of it. We just see on the surface what it is. We don't find out what's going on. So when you work in places like the Crisis Center and other NGOs and so on who are doing this with the police, that's when we know what is actually happening to our little girls. When you have a little girl who just walks into your office and she's been anally raped by her uncle, and you're looking at someone your height, and then you have to look down to see this child and so on, and the pressure she's under, and girls' education get impacted. So therefore you have a sector of girls, a group of girls who will never get an education. They never realize their full potential.
Exactly.
And things like that. And sexual abuse and rape of girls, it really kills self-esteem and self-confidence, but particularly when there is no support. There are no effective interventions. Sometimes some of them go to religious institutions.
Again?
And there they are told, let's pray together to get the devil out of you. If you listen to your parents, this would not have happened. Sometimes police have improved a lot, but sometimes the girls still get it. What were you doing there? Even sometimes doctors ask that question. Well, what were you doing? Were you wearing that? No wonder, something happened to you. So often they don't want to carry on with the reporting. So all these kind of things, it really kills girls' self-esteem, and we really have to look out for it. Girls get physically beaten so badly for some misdemeanors, when she's not behaving like a girl, when she stays out a bit late, if she talks to people she's not supposed to talk to. So all those things, girls deserve a beating to keep them straight and on the narrow.
Yeah, that's the thing, like with traditional or cultural upbringing. I think this has a lot to do with it. I mean, we're in modern times now, but we still have people in the community who actually run this. I mean, I had an interesting guest. I don't know if you know Chopetarai.
Yes.
And I think he's a perfect example for speaking about women, standing up for women and girls. But we'll be back soon on Speak Your Mind. This is Gold FM, only the classic hits, your classic hits radio station in Fiji. This is Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits, and we're on the live radio talkback. If you'd like to maybe share a view or have something to discuss with us, you can call 3220-907, or if you have a Digicel phone, 7732-907. So, Shamima, we are, in this age of technology, it's very easy for boys to get onto internet and maybe access a porn site, who knows? So, I mean, their sexual expectations must be quite high around this time. Shamima?
Yes. It's not like they may be watching, they are watching.
Okay, yes, right, yes.
And girls are also watching these kind of things, the easy availability. And this is where, parents' education comes in.
Yes.
From a lot of times things are beyond our control, because otherwise we have to keep our kids gated, our girls gated. They are allowed to go, but how they deal with people in the outside world, and that is building the self-esteem and self-confidence, and we have to start it at home. But just coming back to the sexual thing, and then I'll get on to the other one,
right,
is what we're hearing young girls coming into the center is the kind of sexual expectations that their boyfriends or young men have from them, of them.
Right.
And so these girls, there's one section of girls who are growing up with guys, not knowing any love or anything like that. And the expectations are quite deviant. sexual behavior, which the girls don't want to do, but they do because this whole peer pressure about having a boyfriend, and things like that. So you have a boyfriend, you're in with the in crowd and things like that. So that kind of competition is going on with boys. So girls are giving into very terrible, sort of very crude sexual behavior that acts that the boys are asking for nowadays. And even and sometimes telling them, well, I'll kiss you if you will allow me to have something like anal sex or something like that, sex with objects. I'm being very open because these are the cases that are coming to us. This is what they are telling us, So that also is a huge area of education we have to do. A girl who is brought up with her self-esteem intact, and she's got self-confidence, and she's been taught about feminism, I'm going to say that, about her rights and so on. That kind of girl will say, hello, thank you very much. I'm not giving into that. You can go jump, and things like that.
Good one,
and move on, But because of what our girls go through at home, self-esteem is low. They're looking for affection and so on. They give into these kind of things,
Yes.
So that is why we come back home. I made a choice, a very painful choice of not having children. Because once I went into this work, I decided I'm not going to have children, because when you have a child, you have full responsibility of that child,
True.
and you must be there with your child and look after the child and teaching one child, and protecting the child and teaching the child. You can't be there all the time to protect them, but the values you teach, their rights, about human rights, about who they are, their self-respect, building those things. When you do that, you have kids. We can't control things outside, but at least they have some chance of surviving and making it in this world,
And that's so true, Shamima. Just like Nelson Mandela had mentioned that, education is everything. I mean, even for girls, like you said, teach them, they know their rights. So, no one will be able to play around with their mind. I mean, for instance, what about that Talatala sentenced to 14 years in prison? And what did he do? I mean, he, deceivingly got these underage girls to actually sleep with him.
But then we also have to ask, what role is religion playing in our lives? Like what is it we're teaching? What are the good things? What are the values a religion teaches that treats all human beings equally? And things like that. What part of religion are we using to further oppress girls and women and things like that? Those are real questions that we must ask when we are preaching, when we are talking, when we are having discussions, and not just stand up and say girls forever, like all these slogans. Our girls make up half the world, or whatever. These are slogans, empty slogans. What we are doing is really important. Because what happens is, how to be a good girl, a decent girl, a good mother, a good woman is the one who doesn't talk back, the one who obeys her elders, the one who respects men,
the one who doesn't ask questions
and doesn't answer back, and does and things like that, and listen. So when we start doing that, we're actually taking away the right of the girl to ask questions, to exercise her right as a human being. So these girls, when they grow up, and because we are taught to respect our priests, whoever they are, whatever religion they belong to. So when sometimes, a lot of them are very good people, but when some of these people are around, when they do it, because of that whole thing about not questioning people in places of power, and our priests have a lot of power, and things like that. So these girls get into, it might be beyond our imagination. How could that mother and her daughter and
thinking,
so on and so forth?
How?
But no, when you do this work, you can know how easily women believe and fall into these things. And the younger they are, and the less self-esteem, self-confidence they have, the more neglect they have had, the more vulnerable they are to this kind of people.
Absolutely awful. They, to me, were brainwashed. They're at home, they live in their own little bubble, maybe, church, home, school, church, and more church. And what happens?
And then, and the neglect that they go through at home also. A lot of girls go through neglect in their own homes in terms of resources. We sometimes have, not sometimes, a lot of times we have this habit of the best food going to the man.
Exactly.
That?
We'll talk about that when we come back.
Sure.
On Gold FM, only the classic hits. This is Speak Your Mind. Thanks so much for being with us. This is Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. Lovely to have you with us, and just talking about a very important subject. Today's International Day of the Girl Child, and Shamima just letting us know the reality of how our girls are living at the moment. But we were just talking about how you said, how we let men eat first. Like I know at weddings, whatever, but, men always have the privilege to eat first, especially Itaukei, sorry to say.
Yeah. No, it happens everywhere.
Everywhere too?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. In the Fijian
right.
families also, the best food is kept for them, and things like that. The
Yeah.
food is often cooked that the men in the house like. You
Yeah.
can't have ro if they don't like ro. You can't have dal rice if they don't like dal. You have
Otherwise,
to have dal roti and all this.
you
Otherwise,
might have a good chance of that plate flying out the
well,
window or
yes,
something.
or on your head.
Oh,
and
yeah,
things like that
true,
also.
eh?
So
Yeah.
so those things. So the girls are watching all this and they're seeing the privileges that the males are enjoying within the family, within communities, within so on. So what is that saying to them? That you are nothing, you're a lesser being. You're a lesser being.
So that's a
You know.
self-esteem affected right
again, definitely,
Yeah.
and telling her, so those things we have to address, that those kind of things happen. So that's what we're telling the girl. She's learning all those things. Then she goes into the school, then she goes into the workplace. We've had in schools where girls are saying that sometimes boys bully them after school. They threaten them if girls are smart in the class. So they force themselves to keep their hands down and not put their hands up when they know the answers, because the boys say you want to be too smart, and then the bullying and so on. So that also there has been a history of that. So girls keep themselves down, and don't do those things.
And it's in a way where they think that it's actually the right way to think. That's sad,
Yes. And then they go into their workplace maybe. In the workplace, they're treated just like that also by the bosses. No, if you're working in a particular profession, and it's tea time or there is a function, immediately they will look at the women to provide the food, to set the table, and then the men will go and eat or make the tea or make the coffee, bring the cakes, and things like that.
You can't see men doing that hardly.
So that thing carries on into our life, and we forget these girls are growing up to be the women of tomorrow. And so we have to, and if we want to get rid of violence against women and things that we are saying so much, then we have to address these things. We have to look at what are we doing to our girls. And, on the one hand, the girls can come to a class today, and we can do a feminist class with them, and we can teach them everything, girl power and this and that, everything else, their rights and so on. Then they go back home. And then they are told, too much of these women's rights things, you just stay home because this is what your job is going to be. Or the mother gets it. Why are you sending the girl to those kind of things? See, now she's asking questions. And instead of that, we say, my girl is so smart, and having, and this also comes back to our families, whether single parent families, whether a guardian, whatever, what we call family, however we define it, that there's a time for everybody to be together, where we discuss issues, we share our experiences, the mother, father, if that is the nuclear family, mother, father, the children, if it's a single parent, her children, his children, together, and whoever else is in the family. And women's voice should be heard. When the girls talks, we don't say, oh no, let's listen to your brother first, and things like that. No, when a girl talks, we should listen to her, that she's part of that little democratic institution that we call the family. So we have to, so we really have to do those kind of things. Otherwise, we can have the International Day of Girls, the girl child and so on, talk about what she's going through. But really, we are not looking at, okay, this is what she's going through. We've got a lot of information. How do we make things better for her?
Yes.
And how do we ensure that the other half of our population, grows up to be equal human beings, and they share in all the resources of the country. They share human rights. They also enjoy human rights. And also we contribute towards their development as human beings.
Yes. So, Shamima, like today is International Day of the Girl Child. There was something which is about the theme, improving data. Is that right, on girls and addressing the issues that are holding them back which is critical for fulfilling, just a great future for our girls. So this is improving data. How can we do that? Like you said.
Well, we should get disaggregated data, about boys and girls, men and women, and
Oh,
so
I
on.
see,
We should
yes.
say that, so we can track their progress throughout their lives. We can, whether it's in the health system, whether it's in the education system, whether they are, an education system is from preschool right up to tertiary education. We should be looking at their training opportunities and so on. Are they getting what the boys are getting? Are we providing for them or are we not? All those things we need to look at. So you have to have that kind of data, because when we have the data, then, if you have good leaders in place, it's a good government, you have people who are concerned about women and about girls and so on, then they will say, all right, we have to have some policies. Some policies, we have to put money into it. It has got budget implications of
Yes.
how to develop and how to ensure that our girls are looked after, they're getting the privileges the boys are, they're getting the opportunities the boys are, and so on. And we have to do that if we really want to, achieve the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, because
Right.
a very important one is the way we treat our girls and boys, the equality about girls and women and so on, and equality between girls and boys, equality between men and women. So to achieve that, and Fiji is doing pretty well, on paper at least,
Yes.
but also we have got good laws, good legislation. We have, got a child helpline.
Yes.
And very soon we are going to be setting up the DV helpline, a toll-free DV helpline. So those are, things, work in progress,
Yes.
and a good achievement also. But I would still say a lot more needs to be done. Our teacher training,
Yeah.
they need to look at this. We need to have gender studies in teacher training.
Right.
Not just one-off lecture, a one-off talk. It shouldn't be like, it should be part and parcel of that for teachers, so that when they go out into schools, they know how to treat girls and boys. There are also girls and boys who are concerned about their sexuality, who discover that perhaps they are not like other girls. Maybe their sexual orientation might not be that. So there's a time of confusion there, and we all need to know about these things now. And if they are going through through that confusion, instead of beating them up and punishing them, we need to see where can we get some support for this young person to move on in life, with whatever she or he has. So those things we have to do. It starts from the family. It starts from
Filters
our
out,
religion,
school,
everywhere,
religion.
community events, religion, our cultural, traditional events, all those places, structures and things that we have, And this whole thing about, I have to say this one, girls not wearing pants. In the villages, girls not wearing pants. And then so when we question, why can't girls wear pants? Well, we know within the village you can't, within. And I grew up like that also.
Yeah.
But they will say, oh no, generally also they shouldn't be wearing pants. Why? So protects them from rape, And I said, no,
Oh,
actually
dear.
it's harder to get off and
That's a
so
good
on.
one,
And there's
yes.
a girl saying, so this wearing of pants of girls,
Yeah.
we really have to examine that, because I'm hearing that some other institutions are also saying women to dress up in skirts or long skirts and dresses and things like that, and no pants. So I am in the midst of finding out why.
Okay, well,
Yes.
that's good, Shamima. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. But, the guys, they wear the Sulu Chamba. That's a skirt too.
There's a skirt
Not
too.
Sulu Chamba. What do you
The
call
Sulu-
it?
Sulu Batang.
Batang.
Yes.
Anyway, unfortunately, that's the end of the program today. But today, marking International Day
Yeah.
of the Girl Child, just one very quick message for our girls. Let girls be girls.
Yes, very much that. But also I would say today, take time out for your child, for your girl child. Sit down and listen to her. Listen to her, what her aspirations are.
Oh, thank you very much, Shamima, from the Fiji Women's Rights. That's it for
I'm from the Fiji Women's Crisis Center.
Fiji Women's Crisis Center. I always do that to you, Shamima. I'm so sorry. But anyhow, next time I'm sure we'll have more to talk about. For Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, I'm Louise. Thanks a lot for being with us and our guest, Shamima.